Gone are the luxury trappings, gone are the titles, and he will be effectively in exile in a quiet corner of Norfolk. Except it's never quiet with Andrew, is it? And the negative headlines just keep on coming.
Well, what does next year hold for the royal family? It's certainly been an eventful one for them, what with cancer treatment, the fall of one-time Prince Andrew, and the King taking quite a prominent role in the national life, including, of course, hosting Donald Trump. Joining me now to discuss all that are Sarah Hewson, the royal correspondent. Hello, Sarah.
Hello to you, Adam. Lovely to see you.
Now, let's start with the bad stuff, if you like. The man we must now call Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. We've had the royal family gathering at Christmas. What can we read from that? What does the next year promise for him?
Well, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is going to be moving from his home in Royal Lodge, the home that he has been so desperately clinging on to for more than a year now. He'll be moving to Marsh Farm on the Sandringham estate in 2026, a far more humble abode. Formerly a working farm, needs quite a lot of work to get it up to scratch. There's also going to be security measures needed around him, but on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. And that is significant because it is a privately owned estate, and the King will be privately footing the bill for Andrew's rent there. It means that Andrew, his fall from grace is almost complete then. Gone are the luxury trappings, gone are the titles, and he will be effectively in exile in a quiet corner of Norfolk. Except it's never quiet with Andrew, is it? And the negative headlines just keep on coming. The continued release from the Epstein files. But as for Christmas, he was in Windsor. His daughters significantly were with the King and members of the royal family at Sandringham, and very much a show of support for Beatrice and Eugenie as they walked to church, flanked by other members of the royal family, that they are very much still a part of the family and shouldn't be suffering for the sins of their parents, if you like.
And on a more positive note, better news for the King. And he really has seemed to grow into the role this year, speaking not just when he has to the general public, but really taking part in national life.
Yeah, and I think when you look back at 2025, it was a year that was bookended by more positive news about royal family health compared to 2024, which Prince William's words was a brutal year for him and for the family. So we had at the beginning of the year the Princess of Wales revealing that she was in remission. And at the end of the year, we had this unprecedented statement from the King as he took part in the Stand Up to Cancer campaign, where he revealed the good news that his cancer treatment schedule is going to be reduced in 2026. And that means that 2026 will no longer be quite so dictated by that regular schedule of treatment. He's been undergoing treatment on pretty much a weekly basis, usually on a Wednesday, taking place in London, taking around 5 hours. And that has punctuated his weeks because of the advances in medical care, because of his early diagnosis, something that he's really been banging the drum for other people and really trying to raise awareness of. Because of that, doctors have said that he is able to reduce that schedule of treatment. And that means potentially we might get more overseas visits by the King. We know that there are plans for him to head to the United States to mark the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There may be more. We haven't had a lot of travel outwardly from the King, and what it has been fairly local, if you like. He's been to Poland, he's been to Italy, he did go to Canada for a short visit there to mark the state opening of Parliament. We've had 3 incoming state visits, and we've really seen the full soft power of the monarchy and that relationship between the King and President Trump being vitally important for the government in terms of trying to get that trade deal with the United States. So I think we're going to be seeing more of that in 2026. 2026, and less of the year being dictated, hopefully all being well, by health issues.
And Trump in the United States also important, not just for King Charles, but also for Prince William.
Yes, Prince William also set to be heading to the United States in the summer of 2026. North America hosting the Football World Cup, shared between the US, Mexico and Canada. Prince William expected to attend in his role with the Football Association and, of course, is a huge football fan. And Prince William, we've seen over the course of the last year, playing that increasingly global statesman role. It has been at the visits of President Trump, of the French president, of the German president. It has been the Prince and Princess of Wales who've been the first to greet them and escort them to meet the King and the Queen. We saw him head to COP30 and give a speech on behalf of the King as he was also hosting his Earthshot Prize. It was Prince William, for example, who went to the funeral of the late Pope. Increasingly that global statesman role, but also time for some of his passions, and football being one of them.
Sarah Hewson, thank you very much indeed. Happy New Year to you.
The King and the Prince of Wales are expected to make separate visits to the United States in the new year as part of a charm offensive aimed at President Trump. Advanced talks are underway, and a source said it was highly likely the King would make the trip in April. The visit would be the first by a reigning monarch in almost 20 years since Queen Elizabeth accepted an invitation from George Bush in 2007. Well, Dickie Arbiter is a royal commentator. He was press spokesman for the King when he was Prince of Wales and also for the late Queen Elizabeth II. He joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Dickie.
Hello, Carol.
Thanks so much for joining us. First of all, just tell us what we know about the plans for these trips in 2026.
Well, right now, we don't know anything. We know that England are playing football in the World Cup in the United States. We know William is royal patron of the Football Association. So the likelihood is that he'll go there for one of England's matches on the 13th, the 17th, the 24th or the 27th of June. As far as the King is concerned, it's conceivable that President Trump might have raised the prospect of a visit on their 250th anniversary year when he was here in September. But at the moment, it's probably talks about talks. You did mention that the likelihood is April. I would have thought if it is April, then it's going to be sometime after Easter, because the King's a creature of habit and he likes the idea of Easter at St. George's Chapel.
How important do you think these royal visits, if indeed they do go ahead, will be in terms of trying to improve relations between the UK and the US, and at a time when, of course, we're still struggling to get that much celebrated trade deal, which was never actually put down in ink, and it's still not settled, and questions over the tariffs are still not settled. I mean, we know that President Trump loves the royal family, but do you think visits like this could make a difference?
I'm not sure about that. Yes, President Trump does like the royal family. He'll bend over backwards to accommodate the King and anybody else who comes over. The trouble is, when it's left in the hands of the politicians, any good that's done by the royal family is undone by the politicians. And it really, at the end of the day, the King can't negotiate any trade deals. He can't negotiate anything political. That's down to the politicians. That's down to the civil servants meeting their opposite numbers in the States. So what comes out of it, certainly there'll be a lot of schmoozing between the King and President Trump. He'll love it. He loved the state visit here in September. He said it was his best time ever. It'd probably be his best time ever when the King goes to America. But what the politicians do about it, the King having smoothed the way with soft diplomacy, well, that's up to them.
With the visit, as we were saying, it would be pretty rare. We haven't had this for over 20 years since Queen Elizabeth went there. And it would be a really important event, wouldn't it, for the King, especially as he is now, we are told, needing rather less cancer treatment. But of course, he's still recovering from that. And it would be a pretty big undertaking, wouldn't it?
It would be a huge undertaking because, as he mentioned a week ago Friday in his television address on cancer, that his treatment is being reduced come January or come early next year. How much that's going to be reduced, how it's going to affect him, what sort of shape he'll be in, that remains to be seen, and his medical team will be watching him very closely. These tours abroad are very, very strenuous. I did 27 of them when I worked for the late Queen, and they are strenuous. They are hard work. You're on parade 24/7. You have to mind your P's and Q's. So it will be an enormous strain, and any visit will be tailored to his condition, no matter what state he is in. Trump will want to pull out all the stops and try and get him to do as much as possible, but he'll recognize that the king does still undergo and will still undergo treatment, and he'll tailor-make that visit to accommodate that. But it is very important. It's very important to the UK. It's important to the royal family to be able to smooth the path for the politicians. Unfortunately, the politicians have a knack of mucking things up after the royals have smoothed the pathway for them. But at the end of the day, it's all up to them what they get out of it, what deals they get out of it. And as you rightly said, a trade deal is important.
And how much of these visits is controlled by Buckingham Palace, by the royals, and how much by the government? The government obviously will have its own ideas of what it would hope to get out of it. Clearly, it has to be done in close cooperation with the White House. But how much can Buckingham Palace, the King's own personnel, control how an event like that would pan out?
It's very difficult to use the word control. The White House will certainly want the king to do certain things, whatever they've got planned to celebrate the 250th anniversary, the breakaway from the United Kingdom and from one of the king's ancestors, George III. Buckingham Palace will certainly want the king to be able to do certain things that he's interested in. And the government will hope that anything that, excuse me, anything the king does will smooth their pathway to the right people in the Trump administration to negotiate and sort of cross the T's and dot the I's for any trade agreement. So it's a triumvirate that have got to work together, and they'll probably start working together early in the new year.
And Prince William, this talk of him going out there for the World Cup, I mean, it's going to be a huge sporting occasion. And of course, depending on how the England team do, will be one of a source of huge national interest and we hope pride. It is significant, isn't it? Obviously, Prince William has that formal role in the Football Association, but for him to be there in the United States anniversary year, in the midst of this World Cup, will be a huge event, wouldn't it?
It will be a huge event, and unfortunately, those three games that are happening in the sort of closing 10 days or so of June will make it rather lengthy if he's expected to attend all of them. If he goes to the last game, which is in Rutherford, which is in New Jersey, that's a match against Panama. That's on the 27th. Then it's only sort of a matter of 8 days away from the actual 4th of July, the day of signing the Declaration of Independence. So there are all sorts of ifs and buts. William won't want to be away too long because he'd quite like to be at George's last days at Lambrook. He finishes at Lambrook in July. Term breaks up on the 5th of July, which is not very helpful. And he'd probably like to have George with him. But again, there are all sorts of ifs and buts that his team will be negotiating with the Football Association, with FIFA in Switzerland and in the States, and he'll work out the best program that fits for him, fits for the England team, fits for the Football Association.
And just very briefly, if you could, Dickie, I mean, the royals clearly, and for that matter, the government will be desperately hoping that more revelations about Andrew, the former Prince Andrew, that those don't overshadow any visits.
Unfortunately, anything that comes out is going to overshadow, but the royals are pretty forthright. They get on with the job, and they're not going to let anything distract them from the job at hand. And they hope that the job at hand is not going to distract anybody else from it. These revelations are going to continue coming out. I mean, they're talking of millions more revelations going to be released in the coming weeks. Is there ever an end to it? We actually don't know. But the royals will knuckle down, head down, grist to the mill, and get on with the job and not let anything distract them.
Dickie Arbiter, a royal commentator who's been on so many of these royal trips. Great to have your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Carol.